Hey guys, welcome to The Strong Young Man. Everyone has a fear of something. That can take many forms, such as a fear of diseases, failure, rejection, and so on. Fear is either instinctive, such as a fear of snakes and spiders, or it can be emotionally learned, developed from a past trauma. Fear is a terrible emotion that can paralyse people into inaction, but it's also a life-saving emotion that's function is to enable you to sense danger on an instinctive level. Ultimately, all fear is traced back to the fear of one thing, the fear of one's own death. Every fear, from snakes to spiders to public speaking to social anxiety, has roots in our limbic brain that result from our anxiety to survive. Our ability to sense threats on an instinctive level has evolved over 2.4 million years through natural selection. The amygdala are two almond-sized complex structures of the limbic system responsible for the expression of fear in the human body. This system is commonly referred to as the fight or flight system because of the behaviour humans exhibit when this system is activated, to stand and fight or to turn and run. Humans may have become extinct if we didn't have this system that instinctively reacted to fear. Most of the fear that you experience in your life in today's world is irrational and it will limit your potential. Today's episode is going to teach you how to qualify your fears so that you can determine whether to fight your fears or flight from your fears. To start, I want to break down some of the characteristics of the evolution of fear that you need to be aware of. The first characteristic of the evolution of fear that is useful to know is that men are better at sensing fear than women because the amygdala are larger in males. This makes sense because sensing primal fears would have been a greater advantage to men over women in the Paleolithic era. Considering the fact that approximately 25% of all human males were murdered or died in wars during Paleolithic times, evolution would have naturally selected for men who were better at sensing and avoiding danger. The second characteristic of the evolution of fear that is useful to know is that we are more fearful of losses than we are excited about equivalent gains. This is known as loss aversion. This means that we prefer to run from primal fears to avoid losing our life, rather than preferring to fight primal fears to save our life. This is not always the case, but it's more common for you to give a greater priority to moving away from fear rather than fighting fear, regardless of whether it's an instinctive fear or an emotionally learned fear. The third characteristic of the evolution of fear that is useful to know is that humans are biased towards type 1 errors, also known as false positive errors. An organism that overreacts to a perceived danger and is wrong has a better chance to survive and reproduce compared to an organism that errs by not reacting to a real danger. This characteristic will push you to experience fear in situations that are completely irrational. The final characteristic of the evolution of fear that is useful to know is that the limbic system of the brain is binary. It's either active or it's inactive. All fear is experienced the same, and so you cannot instinctively discriminate between a genuine primal fear and an unrealistic or emotionally learned fear. Our brains have evolved to make us notice anything and everything that has the potential to immediately harm us in our surrounding environment. 99% of the fear that you will experience over the course of your life in a first world country will not kill you, and so this instinctive reaction can limit your potential in these environments. Understanding these characteristics and the evolution of fear, how it was extremely useful in the Paleolithic but very limiting in safe environments, can make it easier to deal with stressful situations. It can help you to make a realistic assessment of fear when you experience the onset. Is this fear a legitimate, life-threatening situation or not? This level of rationality requires an iron mind, because when we're in a state of fear, the limbic system is active, and this often takes over the rational brain. For all genuine fears, when your life is in danger, speed is essential. You must react quickly by fight or flight. Most people will do this unconsciously by letting their limbic system do its job. For the other 99% of the time, your fear will be irrational, and so you must use your rational brain to disqualify it. Once you start to apply this level of rationality in non-life-threatening situations, you can begin to implement a strategy that can see you conquer your fear so that it doesn't control you. The first step is to embrace your fears. Move into these non-life-threatening situations consistently to build up your resistance to the psychological stress. Over time, your body will become better at metabolizing the stress hormones. Take advantage of the body's ability to adapt and implement a schedule of exposure to fear that is manageable for you. This is known as systematic desensitization training, where you desensitize the body's reaction to fear. Understand that you must fight something to conquer it. Running away from an irrational or an emotionally learned fear is not a suitable strategy that will see you conquer fear. Like I mentioned, fear is a terrible emotion that can paralyze people into inaction and mediocrity. Don't let your fear prevent you from doing the things that will facilitate success. To conquer your fears, you need to build up the exposure over time. Make sure you are conservative in your approach to facing your fears, but not too conservative. Find the approach that allows you to conquer your fear as fast as possible. Be aware that an aggressive rate of exposure is more likely to cause trauma, which will strengthen your resistance. This is especially the case for people who have tried to face their fear but have failed to overcome it. Setbacks cause post-traumatic stress, and the limbic system will try to protect itself from the exposure in the future. Sometimes fear can take decades to conquer, especially if it's something that was conditioned over many years or by something extremely traumatic. Just understand that you will never immunise yourself against fear. It can only be conquered. Accept that this is a part of being human and its function is to enable survival. Conquering fear requires ongoing maintenance. Maintain a schedule of exposure to your fear to ensure you retain this necessary component to success over the long term. The final thing I want to mention is that you must not be reckless in facing your fears. Deliberately putting your life in danger with no valid cause under the guise of conquering fear is not something that I endorse. Thanks for watching today's episode. In episode 112, I'll be talking about the importance of masculine energy. Subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified when it drops. Catch you then.